Welcome to today's deep dive. I am so genuinely thrilled you are here with us today because, well, we are going to be exploring something that might actually,
Fundamentally change things.
yeah, fundamentally change the way you look at every single interaction you have from this moment forward. I mean, I want you to just pause and think about your life for a second. Think about the loops you find yourself in. You know the ones. What if you are trapped in a repeating loop right now?
Like a financial loop.
Exactly. Maybe it's a loop with your money where you are constantly hitting this invisible ceiling. And no matter how hard you hustle, you just watch your bank account drain right back to the same baseline.
Or a relationship loop.
Right, where you keep attracting the exact same type of emotionally unavailable or toxic partner. They are just wearing a different face and have a different name. Or maybe it's a loop of chronic, inescapable stress at work. Every boss you get somehow ends up being a micromanager.
Which happens so often.
It really does. So, what if I told you that you aren't in this loop because of bad luck? What if you are not a victim of a terrible economy or a victim of a horrible dating pool or just cursed with bad bosses? What if instead your reality is acting as a literal holographic mirror?
Projecting your own hidden codes right back at you.
Yes, projecting your own hidden subconscious codes right back at your face.
It's an incredibly bold premise, isn't it? And what's fascinating here is that while the source material we're looking at today uses a lot of almost spiritual terminology
Yeah, totally.
and, occasionally dips its toes into the language of quantum physics and holograms, at its absolute core, this is a masterclass in cognitive behavioral psychology.
Notice that.
It's about profound and honestly highly uncomfortable self-awareness. It completely and utterly challenges you to abandon the victim mindset. When you strip away the metaphysical metaphors for a second, what we are really talking about is the reticular activating system in your brain.
The RES.
Right. Your subconscious confirmation biases and the deep-seated neural pathways that dictate exactly what you notice, what you react to, and ultimately what you are unconsciously creating in your environment.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we don't lose anyone right out of the gate. For the listener who maybe hasn't taken Psych 101 in a decade or who hears reticular activating system and immediately glazes over, what exactly is the RAS? Let's define that before we get into the wilder stuff.
That is a great point. The reticular activating system, or RAS, is essentially a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff gets through. Your brain is bombarded by billions of bits of data every second. Sights, sounds, physical sensations.
Just a constant stream.
Exactly. If you processed all of it consciously, your brain would literally short circuit. So the RAS acts as the bouncer at the club of your mind.
I love that. The bouncer.
It only lets in information that validates your core beliefs or directly impacts your survival. If you deeply believe that people are untrustworthy, your RAS will literally filter out the 99 times someone is kind to you, and it will highlight in neon lights the one time someone cuts you off in traffic.
Because it proves you're right.
It proves your internal code correct.
That makes perfect sense. So when the material we're looking at today talks about a holographic system, it's taking that biological reality, the RAS, and elevating it to explain how our entire life experience is shaped by those filters. And the mission of our deep dive today is to decode that exact system.
Which is a huge undertaking.
Huge. But we are going to explore this fascinating framework that explains how to spot your own internal colors. We are going to look at why arguing with your reality or trying to change the people around you is literally like scrubbing a physical bathroom mirror when you have a smudge on your own face.
The mirror analogy is so powerful.
It is. And most importantly, we're not just going to theorize. We're going to walk you through a very specific 4-step protocol to actually rewrite your internal database so you can change your external world. So, okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the foundational analogy of this entire concept. The 12-color watercolor palette.
It's a brilliant starting point because it gives us a tangible visual for a very abstract psychological concept. The premise asks you to imagine yourself not as a fixed, rigid personality, not just I am an anxious person or I am an angry person,
Right.
but as a being made up of 12 basic colors, much like a painter's wooden watercolor palette.
Right, so picture that palette in your hands, and on this palette you have these distinct, messy dabs of paint. Each of these colors represents a specific emotional frequency or a state of being that exists within your personal field. So pink represents love, a bright, vibrant prince.
And red represents anger.
Red is anger, rage, or deep frustration. Blue represents deep peace and tranquility. Brown represents fear, anxiety, and perhaps a profound sense of unworthiness. The key here is that you hold all of these. You are not just the pink, and you are not just the brown, you are the entire palette.
And this is where we get to the ultimate goal of human existence, or at least the goal of our psychological and emotional evolution according to this framework. The objective is not to violently scrape the red or the brown off the palette.
You can't just amputate your fear.
Exactly. You can't amputate your fear or your anger. The goal is to acknowledge them, process them, and eventually merge all of these fragmented, sometimes messy colors into one pure, high-frequency color. The framework refers to this ultimate state as a pure purple light.
Pure purple light, I kind of love that imagery.
You can think of this pure purple light as your pure essence. It's a state of unconditional love, total awareness, and zero resistance to reality. But of course, getting there requires understanding why we have all these other messy, conflicting colors splattered all over us in the first place.
Exactly. Because presumably, we aren't born with all the brown fear and red anger activated in this complex, chaotic way, right? I mean, a baby isn't born with a scarcity mindset about paying the mortgage.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of human development and evolutionary biology, we are introduced to the concept of the biological robot. Beneath all the layers, the argument is that everyone is fundamentally that infinite, pure purple light. But from the very second you are born into this world, a programming process begins. And it happens for a reason.
Survival.
Survival.
Wait, unpack that for me. How is absorbing fear a survival mechanism?
Think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. A human infant is entirely dependent on its caregivers for survival. To survive, that infant's brain is designed to be a sponge. It has to hyper-adapt to its specific environment. So you start absorbing narratives.
Oh, I see.
If you grow up in a house where you listen to your parents screaming at each other about paying the electricity bill, your developing brain records that as a survival threat. It writes a line of code. Resources are scarce. Money equals danger. You listen to your teachers telling you that you need to be quiet and compliant to be a good kid, and your brain writes, authentic expression leads to rejection. Rejection leads to death. You absorb societal messaging that says success only looks a certain way, or that people are inherently untrustworthy, or that life is a constant, grueling struggle.
So you adopt these definitions to survive your childhood. You start saying, I am this, or I am not that. You hear your mom say, we just aren't the kind of people who get lucky. And suddenly that becomes a foundational line of code in your internal software.
And before you know it, you are an adult, but you are functioning as this biological robot.
You are walking around, making career decisions, picking romantic partners, reacting to stress, not from your pure essence, but strictly based on the lines of code written into your database by other people decades ago.
Which honestly is a deeply liberating realization for you, the listener. If you are struggling with severe anxiety about your career, or if you have a deeply ingrained scarcity mindset where you feel terrified to spend a single dollar even when you have savings, this framework tells you that you are not inherently broken.
That is so important to hear.
Your core identity is not your anxiety. You are not your scarcity mindset. Those are just lines of inherited code. They are brown paint that got splattered onto your palette without your conscious permission by an environment you didn't choose. You are simply a database running a faulty script, and a script can be rewritten.
I really relate with that. You are a database running a script. But here's the massive catch, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. If we are just a database, and our conscious mind, the part of us listening to this deep dive right now, only accounts for a tiny fraction of our brain power, how on earth do we know what lines of code are secretly running in the background? We can't just plug a USB cable into our ear and read our own source code on a laptop screen.
We can't. The subconscious is completely invisible to the conscious mind. It operates entirely in the dark. It is a massive blind spot. And that is exactly why the system, the universe, the hologram, the psychological reality we inhabit, has a built-in mechanism to show you your own code. Because you cannot see your own database, the system surrounds you with other people and external events to act as literal reflectors. It provides you with mirrors.
Mirrors. Okay, this brings us to one of the most compelling analogies we found in our research. It is so simple, but it hits so hard. Imagine you wake up in the morning, you walk into your bathroom, and you look in the mirror over the sink. You see a big, dark, dirty smudge right under your right eye. What do?
Well, you reach for a cotton pad, maybe some soap and water, and you wipe your own face.
Exactly. You wipe your own face. You do not grab a bottle of glass cleaner, spray the bathroom mirror, and furiously start scrubbing the glass where the reflection of the smudge is.
That would be absurd.
That would be completely insane. You would be standing there for an hour, scrubbing the mirror, screaming at the mirror, wondering why the smudge on your face isn't going away. You would never do that in your bathroom.
Right.
Yet the premise here points out that in our actual lives, when someone triggers us, we spend 100% of our energy doing exactly that. We scrub the mirror.
We argue with them. We try to fix them. We try to control the external circumstances. We go out for drinks and gossip about them to our friends, desperately trying to validate why the mirror is wrong and we are right.
Yes. I am so guilty of this. We say, if my partner would just communicate better, I wouldn't be so incredibly anxious all the time, scrubbing the mirror. If my boss wasn't such a micromanager, I wouldn't be so angry at work. Scrubbing the mirror. The framework is telling you that the person in front of you is just a piece of glass. They're showing you the smudge of anxiety or anger that is on your own psychological face. And once your face is clean, you walk away from the mirror. His job is done. The mirror didn't put the smudge there.
It just revealed it to you.
Right. It just revealed it to you.
This raises an important question, though, regarding the mechanics of this. How exactly does the mirror know what to reflect? This is where we delve into the magnetism of frequencies. Let's use the watercolor palette analogy again. Let's say you have a massive, invisible red balloon of anger floating in your energetic field. Or, to use a more vulnerable emotion, let's say you have a deep, unhealed wound of worthlessness. You are broadcasting this feeling constantly. Let's assign a number to make it concrete. You are broadcasting a frequency of a level 4, which corresponds to the core belief. I am fundamentally worthless, and people will eventually realize it, expose me, and treat me poorly.
So I'm just walking around, going to the grocery store, going to work, sending emails, completely unaware that I am broadcasting this invisible level 4 signal of worthlessness in all directions like a radio tower.
Correct. And according to the mechanics of this holographic system, and again, tying this back to the reticular activating system we discussed, your brain acts as a flawless, unbiased magnet. It scans the environment for someone or something that matches that exact same level 4 frequency. And it pulls the two of you together. It brings that person into your orbit.
Wait, but if they have the same worthlessness frequency as me, wouldn't we just be two sad people feeling worthless together? Why does it usually end up in massive conflict?
Because of how the trigger has to manifest to force you to look at the mirror. And there is a revelation here that is truly profound. It argues that it completely does not matter how the interaction plays out on the surface. For example, that person might come into your life and treat you terribly. They might talk down to you, ignore your texts, or belittle your accomplishments at work, thereby activating your feeling of worthlessness. In that scenario, you feel like a victim. Or conversely, you might look at that person, judge them harshly, look down on them, and treat them terribly, making them feel worthless.
Oh, wow. Hold on. So I could actually be the one acting like the total jerk, making them feel small, and the system still sees it as the exact same frequency match.
Exactly. The ultimate result in both scenarios is that the core frequency of worthlessness has been activated and brought to the surface of reality. It doesn't matter who played the villain and who played the victim in the physical interaction. The energy of worthlessness was present in your field, so a scenario was generated to pull it out of you so you could see it. The logic states very clearly that if that frequency was not already inside your database, you simply would not get triggered. If someone tried to belittle you, but you had absolutely zero worthlessness in your programming, you wouldn't feel hurt or defensive. You would just look at them, probably feel a bit of compassion for their bad mood, laugh it off, and walk away. The very fact that you feel a sting, that your heart rate elevates, that you feel an emotional charge, is the undeniable proof that the color is on your palette.
That is heavy. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? How can you figure out what frequencies you are currently broadcasting? If you are sitting in your car, commuting, or walking your dog right now, how do you know what invisible signals you are sending out? Well, the research provides a very practical way to do an audit of your reality. And here's where it gets really interesting, because it asks you to look at your life as a literal movie projector.
The premise argues that if you keep experiencing the exact same loops, like we mentioned at the start of the deep dive, it is simply because you keep feeding the exact same tape into the projector.
Right. If the tape inside the machine says betrayal, the movie playing on the screen of your life will feature a revolving cast of characters betraying you. It cannot play a romantic comedy if you put in a psychological thriller tape. To illustrate this, let's look at the example of a sea view versus scarcity. If your internal database is full of expansive, abundant sea view energy, you will naturally manifest and gravitate toward environments that reflect that. You'll find yourself working in an office with a beautiful view, or living in a home that feels open and peaceful. Your external world matches your internal abundance.
But if your database is coded with scarcity, if you are terrified of running out of money, if you believe there's never enough to go around, if you view life as a zero-sum game, you will constantly, almost magnetically, encounter evidence of that scarcity. You will open your phone, and the very first social media post the algorithm serves you will be about an impending economic crisis. You will go to a coffee shop, and the people sitting directly next to you will be loudly complaining about the exorbitant cost of living. Your reticular activating system is aggressively filtering reality to prove your internal code correct, and the holographic universe is eagerly supplying the props and extras for your movie.
And what blew my mind in our research was how deep this goes into our seemingly mundane choices. It asks you to look at the TV shows you watch. Look at your entertainment. If you were sitting on your couch watching a fictional drama, and you find yourself getting genuinely physically furious at a character on the screen because they're cheating on their spouse, your subconscious is having a very real reaction. Your brain, that biological robot, cannot tell the difference between physical reality and fiction. Your heart rate literally goes up, your palms sweat, your jaw clenches. The fact that you are magnetically drawn to watching that specific type of tension and the fact that you react to it so viscerally is absolute proof that betrayal or anger is a color actively sitting on your palette.
It is a diagnostic tool. Your entertainment choices, your streaming playlists, the true crime shows you listen to, they are all showing you your active frequencies. And this principle applies even when we undergo massive life changes, thinking we have successfully left our problems behind. I think this is a perfect time to bring up that diagnostic anecdote we found about the person who relocated. Could you walk me through what happened there? Because that story perfectly encapsulates how fast our codes can rewrite our physical reality.
Yes, the relocated cousin story, I love this one. So there is this person in the notes who moved abroad with their family. Now, back in their home country, this person had a great abundance mindset. They were good with money, they saved easily. But after they moved to this new country, they suddenly found that despite making a really good income, they couldn't save a single dime. The money was flowing in and immediately flowing right back out through unexpected expenses, sudden emergencies, car repair. It was just slipping through their fingers. They panicked and thought, oh no, have I developed a poverty mindset?
But when this was analyzed through the lens of this holographic system, the diagnosis was completely different, wasn't it?
Exactly. It wasn't an inherent poverty mindset from their childhood at all. It was a brand new, highly situational frequency. Because they had moved to a foreign country, completely detached from their usual support network, their extended family, and their familiar culture, their biological robot panicked. They unconsciously adopted a new, very low-frequency fear. The internal script became, I am entirely alone here. I must survive. I have no safety net. I am out of my comfort zone.
I am alone and in danger. That was the new frequency. And because that frequency is rooted in primal survival and fear, it immediately altered their physical reality. The system said, okay, the tape playing in the projector is survival and instability. Let me adjust the external movie to match. And boom, financial instability manifested instantly to perfectly reflect the internal state of emotional instability.
Which is why we strongly encourage you listening right now to do an immediate audit. I did this audit yesterday, and man, the amount of brown smoke I found when I looked at my own bank account and my own daily frustrations was deeply humbling. Look around your life today. What do you see most? Do you see angry people? Do you see victims complaining about their circumstances? Do you see scarcity? Do you see people cutting each other down to get ahead? Whatever is dominating the external movie playing out in front of you is exactly what is written in your internal code. Your reality is your diagnostic printout.
It is incredibly tough love, but it is also deeply empowering once you accept it. Because if you are the one projecting it, you are the one who can change it. But of course, accepting it is the hard part because human beings are absolute masters of self-deception. And here's where the concepts get into the really sneaky stuff. We have to talk about unmasking our nice blocks, the deceptive beliefs we hold, particularly around a topic that triggers almost everyone on the planet: money.
Oh, money, the ultimate trigger. Money is basically a blank canvas that we project all of our survival fears, our self-worth issues, and our egos onto. And our research points out how we routinely lie to ourselves about our financial frequencies, often dressing up our deep blockages as moral superiority.
It's so true. The material suggests a little thought experiment that I find fascinating. Imagine you were sitting at a quiet cafe with a deeply trusted, totally non-judgmental friend, and you decide to honestly, without any filter, pour your heart out about your relationship with money. You start talking, and you hear yourself saying things that you think sound very evolved, very spiritual, very enlightened. You say things like, money just isn't everything to me, or I don't really care about wealth, it's just a tool. Or, my personal favorite, money ruins relationships. I'd rather just have enough to get by and be happy.
And society applauds those statements. We are culturally conditioned to view those sentiments as noble and grounded. But the argument here is that, in the context of the holographic system, these are not signs of enlightenment at all. They are massive, neon-flashing subconscious blocks. They are defense mechanisms. If you were to dig deeper, if that friend were to push you and ask, wait, why did you just say you run away from money? Why do you assume money inherently ruins relationships? You almost always uncover unresolved trauma.
Exactly. You dig down and you find the childhood memory. You remember being 7 years old, lying in bed, listening to your parents scream at each other through the thin drywall about crippling credit card debt. Or you remember an uncle who inherited a family business, became obsessed with wealth, and completely destroyed his family in the process. Your biological robot recorded those events, processed the emotional terror of them, and wrote a very simple, very protective line of code. Money equals pain. Money equals conflict. Money equals bad.
So consciously, you might think you're broadcasting a red frequency, a healthy desire and drive for financial stability and wealth. You go to work, you ask for a raise, you want to be successful. But beneath that thin, superficial layer of conscious desire, your subconscious database has painted the entire concept of money black. Black representing fear, profound shame, or a feeling that desiring money makes you a greedy, bad person.
You are sending out wildly mixed signals. Give me money, but keep it away because it is fundamentally dangerous. And the universe, being a literal magnet, responds to the dominant, deeper frequency. It always responds to the subconscious. It responds to the black pain. It keeps the money away. Or it brings it in only to snatch it away through an emergency, fulfilling your core belief that money is stressful and fleeting. This is also why so many people physically cannot accept a gift or a compliment. Have you ever tried to pay for someone's dinner or hand them a $50 bill just as a gift, and they practically jump backward? They say, no, I couldn't possibly. I don't need it. Take it back.
Yes. That inability to receive gracefully is deeply tied to this concept. It often stems from a profound fear of being needy, a subconscious belief that they are not worthy of an unconditional gift, or an ego-driven shame about appearing vulnerable. If your internal palate equates receiving with weakness or with owing someone a debt, your external reality will ensure you are rarely in a position to receive effortlessly. You will always have to struggle for it, because that is the code you are running.
Realizing this can be a total gut punch. It is a lot to take in. You look at your life, you do the audit, and you realize, oh my gosh, my reality is a complete mess of brown smoke and black paint. I am projecting fear, scarcity, and worthlessness everywhere I go. It can feel incredibly overwhelming and, frankly, a bit depressing at first. The natural question is, okay, I see this smudge on my face. How do we fix the code? How do we clean the database?
This is the most crucial part of our deep dives today. Fortunately, the research doesn't just leave you with a brutal diagnosis. It provides a very specific, actionable protocol for transformation. It outlines a method for taking these dense, heavy frequencies and transmuting them into that pure, high-frequency state we mentioned earlier. Let's call it the Purple Light Transformation Protocol. And I want to spend a good amount of time here, because this is where the actual work happens.
I agree. Let's break this protocol down step by step for the listener. This is the practical application. Let's invent a highly relatable, hypothetical scenario to trace through all 4 steps. Let's say you are at work and you just found out that you were passed over for a major promotion. Not only that, but the promotion went to a coworker who you feel is less qualified and constantly kisses up to the boss.
Oh, that is a perfect scenario. That is going to trigger a massive emotional response. So let's apply step 1. Identify the emotion. This happens in real time, right in the moment you are triggered. You get the email, your heart drops, your stomach clenches, your face gets hot. Before you react, before you scrub the mirror by storming into your boss's office or going out to the parking lot to furiously vent to your spouse on the phone about how unfair the company is, you stop. You have to pinpoint the exact feeling. You have to name it. Is it just anger? Or beneath the anger, is it a deep sense of humiliation? Is it the feeling of being invisible? Is it the terrifying fear that you are a failure and you'll never achieve your goals? You must put a specific label on the dominant emotion. Let's say, in this case, the dominant emotion is a profound sense of humiliation and being undervalued.
Okay, so you have identified it. Humiliation. Now we move to step 2, which is to trace it back. Once you have identified the feeling, you close your eyes for a moment, Maybe you step into a bathroom stall or go to your car, and you ask your subconscious a very specific question. When did I first feel this exact flavor of humiliation? Now, the most important part of step 2 is that you shouldn't force this. You don't need to logically scrub through your memories chronologically. Just ask the question and wait. Because your brain is an incredibly efficient database, it will immediately fetch the file. A childhood image or a past memory will pop up almost instantly.
Right. You might suddenly see yourself standing in the kitchen at 8 years old, bringing home a report card with a C on it, and feeling completely powerless and humiliated while a parent berates you and compares you to your smarter, older sibling. The feeling in your stomach right now at your corporate job is the exact same feeling from that kitchen. You don't need to spend years psychoanalyzing the memory deeply. You just need to acknowledge, there it is. That is where this line of code was written. This isn't about the promotion. This is about the kitchen.
Exactly. You have isolated the corrupted file. Then we move to step 3, the declaration. This is where you actively step into your role as the programmer of your reality. Out loud if you are alone, or firmly in your mind, you state, I see this emotion, I notice it, and right now I cancel it.
I love the psychology of verbalizing that. I cancel it. You are verbally revoking the emotion's authority over your current reality.
Right.
You are telling your biological robot, we are no longer running this program.
And that leads directly into step 4, the visualization, which is the energetic and neurological component of the protocol. Why does the brain respond so well to visualization? Because the subconscious speaks in imagery and symbolism, not logic. So the protocol suggests visualizing that negative emotion, that heavy humiliation from the kitchen and the promotion as a thick, heavy, dark brown smoke hovering right in front of you. It is dense, toxic, and suffocating. See it clearly. Then, in your mind's eye, you imagine opening your arms from your heart center. You envision a brilliant, pure pink or vibrant purple light pouring out of your chest. You wrap this intense, loving purple light entirely around that dark brown smoke, and you watch as the purple light completely consumes, dissolves, and transforms the smoke until absolutely nothing is left but the pure light.
It is such a beautiful, empowering visualization. You are literally taking the brown paint on your palette and transmuting it into the pure purple light. You are doing the work. But, and this is a massive but that we absolutely need to highlight, there is a very serious warning here. You can do this visualization, you can sit in your car and feel amazing, you can feel lighter, you can feel like you've healed decades of trauma, but your mind, that stubborn biological robot, is going to launch a massive counterattack.
It absolutely will. This is basic neurology. Your brain is wired for efficiency. Neural pathways that fire together wire together. And it takes significantly less metabolic energy for your brain to run the old familiar negative neural pathways of humiliation and victimhood than it does to build and maintain new positive pathways of self-worth. The biological robot desperately wants to keep its old code because it equates the familiar with safety, even if the familiar is making you miserable. So the framework lays out a very strict rule for the aftermath of this protocol.
The rule of discipline. Yeah. And it is brutal. The rule is this. If you do this beautiful, profound internal transformation in your car, you clear the block, you dissolve the brown smoke of humiliation regarding the promotion, and then 2 hours later, you go meet a friend for coffee, you sit down, and you spend 3 sentences complaining about how unfair your boss is, how much of a kiss-up your coworker is, and how unlucky your career is. You have just completely undone all the work. It is gone. You just took the USB drive with the malware and plugged it right back into the mainframe.
You must have discipline. Transformation is not a one-time magical spell you cast in a bathroom stall. It is a relentless commitment to a new frequency. You have to actively starve the old neural pathways. When you complain, when you fall back into the victim narrative, you are sending electricity right back into the old code, reinforcing it. You are watering the weeds. But there is incredible encouragement here as well. The research shows that if you hold firm, if you catch yourself before you complain, if you refuse to feed the old thoughts with your attention, your vocal cords, and your energy, those old neural pathways will actually physically weaken. They atrophy. The mind loses its grip on you.
And when that happens, when the old code loses its power, the material says you enter what it calls a heavenly state. And I want to be super clear here. It doesn't mean you are floating on a cloud playing a harp and nothing bad ever happens to you again. It describes this heavenly state as a state of supreme, high awareness and non-attachment. In this state, negative thoughts might still pop up. The biological robot might occasionally try to run an old script out of habit, but you don't attach to them. A thought of jealousy or fear passes by your mental screen, and instead of getting sucked into it and letting it ruin your day, you just observe it. You look at it and say, oh, I see you, but I'm totally done with you. And you just toss it in the mental trash can. It has no emotional charge. It doesn't trigger a cortisol release in your body. That is true emotional freedom.
It is the absolute pinnacle of emotional regulation. But to maintain that heavenly state, to keep those old codes from rebooting during times of extreme stress, you have to adopt a radical new philosophy for your daily life. And this brings us to a section of the material that is, frankly, the hardest pill to swallow for most people. It requires flipping the script entirely and adopting the absolute no victim rule.
Okay, I have to jump in here because when I first read about the no victim rule, my immediate reaction was to push back. The core concept here is total, uncompromising accountability. It explicitly states, there are no victims in the holographic universe, and there is no one to blame outside of yourself. Every single thing that irritates you, hurts you, or frustrates you about another person is simply a projection of your own unhealed material. Now let me play devil's advocate for a second. If someone is in a genuinely toxic, actively abusive marriage or working in an environment with rampant harassment, we cannot simply say they are manifesting it because of their worthlessness frequency and they should just fix their own code. Doesn't that risk sounding dangerously close to victim blaming?
Absolutely, and I'm very glad you brought that up because it is a crucial distinction to make. We must draw a hard, impenetrable line between physical safety and energetic attachment. If you are in physical danger or facing abuse, you must protect yourself, remove yourself from the situation, and seek professional help. Full stop. The no victim rule is not about excusing the terrible behavior of abusers or telling you to quietly endure harm. It is a framework for your internal energetic accountability. It is about asking yourself, why did my database accept this treatment as normal in the first place? What belief inside me matched with this environment so I could learn to heal it? Once you heal the belief, you naturally remove yourself from the toxic environment because it no longer matches your frequency. Taking accountability isn't taking the blame, it's taking your power back so you never end up in that loop again.
Thank you for clarifying that. Taking accountability isn't taking the blame, it's taking the power back. I love that. So in the context of our daily interpersonal conflicts, the annoyances, the slights, the arguments, the framework provides a highly effective, almost confrontational technique to enforce this accountability. It's called the reversal.
The reversal is brilliant. The next time you find yourself yelling at someone, even if it is just a silent, furious argument in your head while you are washing the dishes, you must take the exact specific words you're using against them and turn them 180 degrees inward.
It is an incredible exercise. Let's say you are furious at your partner and you are thinking, you are so unbelievably selfish. You only ever think about yourself. The reversal requires you to stop, look at the mirror, and ask, where am I being selfish to myself? Where am I hoarding my own energy or neglecting my own personal growth?
Or let's say a friend hasn't texted you back in 3 days, and you are spinning out, obsessing over it, thinking, you are ignoring me, you don't value my time or my friendship. The reversal asks, where am I ignoring my own needs? Where am I failing to value my own time by obsessing over a text message? The moment you do this honestly, the anger toward the other person almost instantly dissipates because you realize they are just playing a role. They are a prop in your movie showing you where you are abandoning yourself.
It shifts you from a state of complete powerlessness to a state of total power. And to show exactly how this no victim rule can literally collapse a negative reality and create a new one, there's an amazing anecdote in the notes. It's the story of the excluded friend. I saw this story, but could you actually walk me through what happened there? Because it perfectly hits on a trigger that I think everyone listening understands deeply.
Yes, this is a perfect case study of what we might call quantum shifting in real time. So the setup is this. A person was scrolling on social media one evening, we've all been there. Suddenly, they see a batch of photos posted online. It is a gathering of their different friend groups, people from various circles who all know each other, hanging out at a restaurant together, laughing, clinking glasses, having a great time. And this person was not invited. They had absolutely no idea this dinner was even happening.
Ouch. That is an immediate visceral gut punch.
Exactly. The notes mention that immediately this person felt a physical ping hit their stomach, a sharp, visceral ache. It was the deep, primal feeling of being excluded, forgotten, and ultimately feeling completely worthless.
Now, at this exact moment, the timeline diverges. The normal reaction, what the old code, the biological robot, desperately wants to do, is to embrace the victim role and write a script of retaliation. The old code says, they forgot me, They don't care about me. How dare they? I'm going to give them the silent treatment. Next time they text me, I'm leaving them on read. I'm going to be completely passive-aggressive next time I see them.
And if they had followed that script, if they had indulged that low frequency, they would have manifested an actual physical rift in those relationships. They would have scrubbed the mirror, created conflict out of thin air, and proved their own internal feeling of worthlessness to be true. They would have made it a reality.
But this person had been actively practicing the protocol. They caught the ping in their stomach. They experienced a shift. Instead of reacting, they realized, wait, this is just my own worthlessness frequency acting up. My database is projecting a test. So they actually laughed. They used the protocol right then and there. They said, I see this feeling of exclusion, I acknowledge it, and I cancel it. And then they did something radical. Instead of sending out bitter, resentful energy toward their phone screen, they intentionally envisioned the photo, and they sent pure love and purple light to everyone in that picture. They genuinely wished them a wonderful evening. They completely neutralized the negative emotional charge.
And the result of that internal shift is what makes this entire framework so compelling. The research reveals that a couple of days later, this person happened to check a secondary phone they used for specific group chats, a device they just hadn't looked at in a few days. And right there, sitting on the screen, was a missed message sent hours before that dinner took place. It was from one of the core friends in the photo saying, hey, we are all meeting up at this place tonight. I know you're usually incredibly busy on these days, but we wanted to let you know in case you can make it.
That is wild. The exclusion wasn't even real. The physical reality of being intentionally left out did not exist. It was entirely an illusion, a test of the mirror generated by the universe to see if they would fall back into the old frequency of worthlessness.
This anecdote perfectly illustrates the mechanics of the system. The universe will constantly, relentlessly test your newly rewritten code. It will present you with a scenario that looks exactly like your old trauma. It is asking your database, are you still running this program? By not engaging the old frequency, by choosing not to be a victim, the person collapsed the negative timeline. The conflict never manifested in physical reality because the internal code had been upgraded.
It is mind-blowing when you realize how much drama we invent in our lives simply because our database is craving the familiar, addictive chemicals of our own trauma. But here is the incredible payoff. This brings us to the final stage of our deep dive. Once you actually commit to this, once you stop fighting the mirrors, once you take total accountability, and once you clean the brown smoke out of your code, what actually happens? You escape the matrix of reaction. You reach a state of deep peace, and you can start to consciously, playfully interact with the hologram. You enter the realm of effortless manifestation.
This is where the framework shifts from simply healing past trauma to active creation. When your palette is mostly clear, when you are operating closer to that pure purple light, your energetic field is no longer dense with fear and resistance. It becomes light, magnetic, and highly responsive. But the material is very clear that this type of creation does not look like the aggressive, desperate manifestation techniques we often hear about in popular culture or see on social media.
Right. It is not about sitting in a dark room, sweating, clenching your fists, creating vision boards and chanting, I will get a promotion, I will get a promotion, I will get a promotion, out of a desperate, clawing fear of failure. The research shares a beautiful, simple experiment to demonstrate how real manifestation works. Let's call it the Daisy anecdote. Walk me through this one.
The story goes like this. A person decided they wanted to test this new, clear state of being. They decided to manifest receiving a flower. But crucially, they set some strict parameters for themselves. They didn't demand that the flower come from a specific person, like their spouse, which would immediately attach expectation, pressure, and potential disappointment to the outcome. They simply closed their eyes and imagined the pure, simple joy of receiving a flower. They felt the emotion of delight, and then they completely let it go.
They didn't obsess over it. They didn't check their phone waiting for a delivery text. They just went about their normal life. A few days later, they were out running errands. They go to the market, get their groceries, and walk back to their car in the parking lot. And there, mysteriously tucked right under their windshield wiper, is a massive, beautiful bouquet of daisies. No note, no explanation, no secret admirer revealing themselves. Just a perfect physical reflection of the joy they had programmed into their database a few days prior.
This raises an important question, though, because it's where the reticular activating system meets the more esoteric quantum concepts of the material. Think about it this way. Was the bouquet materialized out of thin air? Probably not. Someone put it there. Maybe they bought it, realized they couldn't take it home, and left it on a random car to spread joy. But why that car? Why that day? The framework suggests that when you hold a pure frequency without desperation, you align yourself with the probabilities where those events intersect. From a psychological standpoint, your RAS is primed to notice opportunities and follow nudges. Park in this spot, go to the store at this exact time, that lead you to the match for your internal frequency. It's a blend of heightened intuition, altered probability, and profound detachment.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about being the right place at the right time because your internal GPS is no longer clouded by fear. It worked effortlessly precisely because there was no desperation. The text describes this optimal state of creation as swaying gently on the sea.
Swaying gently on the sea. It's perfect imagery. You are just floating. You aren't fighting the current. You aren't desperately trying to swim upstream.
Exactly. When you are swaying gently, you are imagining your desire playfully. You do not attach your survival, your ego, or your core self-worth to the outcome. You aren't saying, if I don't get this flower, the universe hates me, I'm bad at manifesting, and this stuff doesn't work. The material provides a magic phrase that encapsulates this state of total surrender, and it is. If it happens, it's beautiful. If it doesn't happen, it's still beautiful.
If it happens, it's beautiful. If it doesn't happen, it's still beautiful. That is the ultimate profound detachment.
It is total surrender. And paradoxically, that surrender is exactly what makes you incredibly powerful. When you drop the desperation and the neurotic need to control the how and the when, your frequency shoots straight up to that purple light level. And at that level, the hologram responds to your desires without resistance. Manifestation becomes effortless, almost instant, and deeply joyful. You're no longer trying to force the mirror to show you a specific reflection by screaming at it. You're simply smiling, and the mirror naturally, effortlessly smiles back.
Wow. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. Let's recap this incredible journey for you, the listener. Imagine that palette one last time. You are a 12-color watercolor palette, and your ultimate trajectory is aiming for that pure, integrated purple light. Everything you see around you, the good, the bad, the infuriating, is just the external world acting as a mirror, reflecting your own subconscious database back to you. The mandate for your life from this point forward is clear. Stop scrubbing the mirror. Stop trying to change everyone else. Take radical internal accountability. When you get triggered, use the protocol. Identify the emotion, trace it back to its root, declare it, cancel it out loud, and transform that brown smoke of trauma into bright purple light. And most importantly, practice a severe, uncompromising discipline of not complaining afterwards. Starve those old victim pathways until they wither away.
The challenge for you now is to actively audit your life. Look at your life today as soon as this deep dive ends. That annoying coworker who constantly undermines you, the frustrating bank account balance that stresses you out to look at, the partner who won't communicate, what color are they showing you? Remember, they are not your enemies. In the context of this holographic system, they are actually doing you a profound favor. They are showing you exactly where you need to clean your own lens. They are the diagnostic tool for your evolution. It completely flips your perspective on every single annoyance in your day. But before we wrap up, I know you have been synthesizing all of this behind the scenes, and I want to hear your final takeaway on this entire framework.
If we take this entire premise to its absolute logical conclusion, we arrive at a fascinating, almost mind-bending paradox. The entire basis of this material is that the world around you is a hologram solely generated to reflect your flaws, your fears, and your unhealed trauma back at you until you process them and reach that pure, perfect purple light. So the provocative thought I want to leave you with is this. What happens when you finally achieve it? If you do the incredibly hard work, if you use the protocol, if you clear every block, every fear, and every insecurity from your database, does the mirror world as you know it cease to exist because it no longer has any trauma to reflect back at you? Or do you step out of the mirror entirely, into an entirely new dimension of shared reality where you are no longer projecting your past onto people, but instead you are co-creating a brand new universe with them, purely out of love? It is something to think about the next time you look in the mirror.
That is an incredible thought to leave on. Are we projecting our trauma, or are we creating our reality out of love? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a really close look at your mirrors today.